Hello and welcome to Formula Phil. Alright, how are we doing? Today we're going to do a short video on, I suppose, the equally short life of Ronnie Peterson. Ronnie Peterson was known as the Super Swede, and this Swedish driver had a spectacular style, a brilliant charger. But he was also known as a genuinely good man. And I know you kind of take that with a bit of a pinch of salt, as in nobody likes to speak ill about the dead. And about other drivers to say, oh, he was sound, but you know, he was very driven and all these kind of things. But what I've read about Ronnie Peterson, or even listened to on podcasts, everyone just loved the man. That he was just a genuine, lovely bloke. Kind. His word was his bond. He never went back on his word, which is, to be honest, unusual in Formula 1 drivers. To reach this peak, you have to be driven and at times somewhat ruthless. And you can step on other people's toes. But it just appeared that Ronnie Peterson, whatever way he went about his life, everyone loved him. And he competed in what is thought as the most dangerous time in F1 in the 70s, from 1970 to 1978 when he was killed at Monza. And like all these deaths in F1's Forgotten Heroes, lessons were learned, and there was a big changes to F1 after his death, and his legacy still continues to this day. Colin Chapman, the genius of Lotus, said that he wasn't the best at setting up a car. He wasn't a good test driver. But he had an unbelievable knack of driving around problems. Colin stating that he would change things on the car, and he goes, oh, how's it handling? And Ronnie would, it slides a bit more. What do you mean slides a bit more? Front or back? And Ronnie would just answer, I'm not overly sure, to be honest. But he would consistently turn in the same lap time. Chapman recalled almost tearing out his hair trying to sort out problems. But when Ronnie was partnered with the likes of Emerson Fittipaldi or Mario Andretti, who were brilliant at setting up cars, Ronnie came into his own. He would often mess around in practice, steal their setups and nick pole position. This, at the time, used to anger Fittipaldi a lot. But Emo also recalls that you couldn't be mad at him for too long, such was Ronnie's affable nature. In Ronnie's 8 years in F1, spectators grew to love Peterson, loved the way that he would constantly be dancing his car, drifting sideways through corners. His car control was so immense that at the British Grand Prix, the crowds were gasping as he went through Woodcote, losing it, catching it, drifting, losing it again, and gathering it all up, and somehow remaining on the track. Sadly, I can't actually find any of that footage, but I have been told that it was outstanding to see. In 1978, the Lotus 79, F1's first real ground effect car, it became certain that either Andretti or Peterson would be world champion, though it would be often Mario at the top spot, because Peterson's contract required him not to beat his teammate under normal racing circumstances. Colin Chapman again recalled, a lot of drivers would be very annoyed at that kind of setup, but Ronnie wasn't one of them. He knew that Mario had worked extremely hard to bring Lotus back to prominence. And he also knew that it was Mario that set up the Lotus 79 and made it what it was. Ronnie never grumbled, and that was very honourable of him. Sadly, death does not really care for honour. And it was that year, 1978, at Monza, that Ronnie had his fatal accident. As the whole pack of 24 cars were just lining up on the grid, there was a mess up with the lights. The lights went green while the cars were still rolling into position. This caused the pack to almost accordion down the start-finish straight. 10 cars, fully laden with fuel, were involved in this horrific accident. Now, I have video footage of this, so I am going to show it. Jackie Stewart's actually commentating. He gives the lay of the land, but keep an eye out for James Hunt, amongst other drivers that were involved in the dramatic rescue of Peterson. Take it away there, Jackie.
Finish line, they'll come to a complete stop again, right, Jackie?
Yes, there's a light system nowadays. It's not a flag, and when the cars absolutely come to a stop, and one car's going straight into the pits, Patrick Tammy's going into the pits, but the cars must come to a stop, then a red light goes on, they're under starter's orders, and then only then will a green light show. That's the second row you're looking at right now.
All right, here's the first row with Mario Andretti in the black car on the pole, number 5. Next to him is Villeneuve in car number 12. Villeneuve gets it on the start. The green light on, they are racing at Monza. Villeneuve is the Ferrari. has the lead. Andretti is second. Peterson is dropping back in the field as they head for that puck. There's an accident!
There's a big crash there. It looked like a car in the centre of the field. It could have been a black car. It could have been Ronnie Peterson.
It's a bad one.
It's a big accident. These cars are full of fuel. The beginning of this, there's a driver. It looks like James Hunt running to the car that's burning there. He's running to that fire.
The word, Jackie, is it's Peterson. Peterson in the burning car. A number of other cars involved in it. We'll pick them up as we can, but that is bad. It's very bad. He's still in that car, and you can see, oh, this is terrible.
They're finding the fire. They've got very quickly onto it. There's James Hunt. There's another driver. Patrick Depailler is in there.
They're getting him out of the car.
He's out the car now. Thank goodness for that. They're getting the fire under control. Yes, the car is Ronnie Peterson's car. The drivers themselves getting Ronnie out of the car. There's a lot of other cars involved here. There must be 7 or 8 cars involved. It looked very serious, a very high-speed accident.
Look at a replay of this. This is at normal speed, Jackie. Let's see if we can spot what happened as they come. No question, the cars at the rear of the field, it appeared to me, were still in motion, some of them, when they got the green light.
Well, that was certainly an error of the man who's in charge of the start. He should not put the red light on until all the cars have come to a complete stop, and only then, when they're under starter's orders, can the green flag be shown. The cars at the back of the grid, we can't see, are certainly still rolling. Mario Andretti anticipates slightly the start, but Villeneuve gets away first. Then the cars stream away. Niki Lauda gets the break on Mario Andretti. He passes, but it's just in this middle bunch here in the centre of the field there that this accident occurs. Ronnie Peterson slams into the barrier at well over 100 miles an hour. A very serious impact.
All right, here it is in slow motion, Jack.
The slow motion here, it seems to me as I read it, that in fact the driver Patrese seems to have come into contact with James Hunt in a red and white car. He bounced across. It looks like he has hit Ronnie Peterson on the rear wheel. Ronnie then veers right down, crashes into the barrier. The front end of the car got the barrier. The car then leapt across the road, hit the Tyrrell car of Didier Pironi, and that in fact was a heavy impact as well. And of course all the other cars were involved because they couldn't.
A truly brutal accident and severe bravery from James Hunt and was it Patrick Depailler as well to risk their own lives by braving the burning wreckage that could have exploded at any time. Jim McKay is actually the other commentator with Jackie Stewart there. I forgot his name. Peterson survived that impact. His legs were very badly broken, many fractures and stuff like that, but he survived. He had some burns, but it took 11 minutes for the ambulance to arrive. The Italian police, fearing a riot or a surge of people, formed a human wall stopping anyone, including Professor Sidney Watkins, to actually arrive at the crash site. Ronnie Peterson was fully conscious, and though his legs were in an awful state, there was more concern for another driver called Brambilla, who was unconscious. Hunt stayed with Peterson and made sure he did not look at his own legs, in case it would cause him any further distress. More minutes ticked by, and finally Peterson was taken to a hospital in Milan, and the race was restarted after the track had been cleaned up. At the hospital, Peterson's x-ray showed that he had multiple fractures in both legs. Then, at the hospital, there was some level of dispute between the doctors regarding should all the fractures be immediately fixed or not. And then, during the night, Peterson's condition worsened, and he was diagnosed with a fat embolism. By the morning, he'd gone into full renal failure, and he was declared dead at 9:55 a.m. The news shocked the paddock, and his teammate Mario Andretti actually clinched the title at that race, and he later recalled that he could not celebrate what really should have been one of the happiest days of his life. It was ruined by a death of a friend. Even today, there's little that can be done after a fat embolism forms, and the risk of an embolism forming is higher the longer the patient is left untreated. Clearly, there needed to be better organisation of medical treatment at the circuits. Professor Sidney Watkins and the Formula One Constructors Association, Chief Bernie Ecclestone, with the support of Niki Lauda and Jackie Stewart, concluded that a medical car should follow the Formula One cars on the first lap so that injured drivers could receive almost immediate medical help. It was also clear that expert firemen should be putting out fires quickly instead of having the drivers pull their fellow drivers out of burning wrecks. Furthermore, it was obvious that there were gigantic problems with Monza that led to the accident in the first place. The authorities of Monza were told to clean up its act and make the circuit safer, and as a first step, those barriers that Peterson slammed into were moved back, and marshals and the Italian police were well rehearsed in letting the emergency services get to the scene of an accident instead of holding them up. Bizarrely, these are all things that we take for granted in contemporary F1 now. Ronnie Peterson's legacy, along with all these other drivers that lost their lives in this time for the sport that we love, was that lessons were learned and safety measures were implemented. But what a great cost that was. So on that kind of grim note, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a small bit about the super Swede Ronnie Peterson. And if you did, please like the video, please subscribe, and check out my other videos that document other Formula 1 drivers' lives and small bios very similar to the vein of this. Anyway, as I said, that's all we have time for. I'll talk to you soon. There'll be another one coming up, I don't know, a week or yeah, every week I suppose. New videos whenever it happens. Good luck!